Some TV deaths aren't just tragic, they're downright satisfying, the kind that leave us cheering, crying, or even punching the air in triumph. Whether it's a villain we've been waiting to see get their comeuppance or a dark character whose time finally runs out, these are the moments that fans applauded. In this video, First Curiosity is counting down such TV deaths where justice was served, the villain was vanquished, or a long-awaited end was finally delivered. So get ready for a thrilling ride through some of the most epic farewells in TV history. 15. Todd, The Boys. Throughout The Boys, we see plenty of over-the-top moments of violence and meet many obvious villains, but Todd wasn't in this zone. Yet, his death stands out as a particularly satisfying moment of karmic retribution. He was the most unassuming, despicable man, right? After being obnoxiously obsessed with Homelander, he was bludgeoned to death by the orders of the same hero he worshipped. Fans rejoiced, because sometimes walking, talking red flags just deserve that kind of fate. 14. Perry Wright, Big Little Lies. Perry Wright from Big Little Lies wasn't just a monster. He was a man who destroyed lives. His death may have been shocking, but it was an emotional and psychological liberation for everyone he hurt. The man had terrorized his wife Celeste and his children all along, thinking of himself as invincible. He was also the one who had sexually assaulted Jane, leaving her pregnant with Ziggy. Eventually, Perry's gruesome fate felt necessary, a moment of setting things right, long overdue. 13. Todd Alquist, Breaking Bad. Todd Alquist is one of Breaking Bad's most repulsive characters, and that's saying a lot. His brutal killings and sociopathic behavior made him a true menace. But when Jesse Pinkman finally takes matters into his own hands and kills Todd, fans couldn't help but applaud this revenge arc. It was a long time coming, and Jesse's act of vengeance felt like poetic justice. 12. Jason Carver, Stranger Things. Jason Carver in Stranger Things starts as your typical high school jock turned antagonist. Spreading fear and blame after the tragic events of the Upside Down, he riles up the locals to hunt down the members of the Hellfire Club. Yeah, the one with Eddie Munson and Dungeons & Dragons fans. Carver also tries to turn Lucas Sinclair against his own sister, and when that doesn't work, he turns murderous. So, it was epic when Carver had to face the horrifying reality and got eviscerated during the gang's fight with Vecna. His gruesome death felt like the universe's way of showing that bullies do not win. 11. Bev Keane, Midnight Mass. Bev Keane in Midnight Mass is the epitome of religious fanaticism taken to dangerous extremes. Seriously, anyone would run a mile in the opposite direction if they came across this sanctimonious. Let's just say, Bev, she is responsible for the deaths of many innocents in the name of her own egocentric beliefs. So when her time finally comes, even though it's horrific and fiery, viewers aren't moved to shed a single tear. Bev burns in the chaos she helped create, and with her gone, the toxic force she represented is finally extinguished. 10. Jang Deok-su, Squid Game. We know, Squid Game has many dark forces at play, but if one character got on everyone's nerves on and off screen, it was Jang Deok-su, Player 101 in Season 1. He was that ruthless, arrogant thug who thought he could win at any cost. He relentlessly pushed everyone around, but Squid Game's resident psychopath met his inevitable death in a classic case of karma biting back. Player 212 takes him down in a murder-suicide leap during the Glass Stepping Stones game. Jang Deok-su doom was like the universe had finally restored balance. Number 9. Phil Leotardo, The Sopranos. Remember the vindictive New York gangster Phil Leotardo from The Sopranos who caused mayhem at every turn? Fans surely relished his death as one of the show's most fitting endings. After all, Leotardo was brutal during his war with Tony Soprano and committed many disturbing acts. When his death is revealed, his head crushed under the tire of his own car, it's the kind of gory closure fans had been waiting for. That was payback. 8. Nina Myers, 24. Nina Myers wasn't just a mole. She was a double-crossing traitor who caused insurmountable problems for Jack Bauer and CTU. After years of manipulating events and causing damage, of course, murdering Jack's wife Terry and many others, there was no doubt that Nina would live to see the show's finale. The only question was when and how she would die. So when Jack finally kills her, It felt cathartic. It was a long-awaited, well-deserved moment that took every betrayal into account. 7. Kilgrave, Jessica Jones. Kilgrave, with his mind-controlling abilities, was one of the most horrifying villains in the Marvel Universe. His manipulation and abuse left Jessica Jones and everyone else around him broken. So when Jessica finally gets the upper hand on the man who had imprisoned her, she doesn't hesitate to kill him. It feels like the end of an era of torment. Fans celebrated Kilgrave's death not just for the triumph over evil, but for the closure it gave to Jessica's dark journey. Sure, he haunts her memories, but Jessica snapping Kilgrave's neck was a diversion from superhero tradition of no cold and deliberate killings that felt absolutely right. It must have been personally fulfilling for her, as it was narratively rewarding for viewers. 6. Gus Fring, Breaking Bad. Gus Fring was the epitome of a calm, calculating villain. But when Walter White finally takes him down in one of the most shocking moments of Breaking Bad, fans couldn't help but hoot and holler. The fact that Gus still takes a moment to fix his suit, thinking he'll escape unscathed before he blows up, pure genius. It felt like the perfect payoff after the evil man's reign of terror in the series. 5. Walder Frey, Game of Thrones. Let's be real. Game of Thrones has a bucket load of heinous characters whose deaths were immensely gratifying. Walder Frey certainly was a giant pain in the you-know-what. His betrayal of the Stark family in the Red Wedding made him one of the most hated characters of the show. So, the barbaric and misogynistic man's death at Arya Stark's hands was as satisfying as it was poetic, serving him a pie made from his own sons before slitting his throat. Fans erupted with joy. It was the ultimate revenge, and it felt oh so good. 4. Arthur Mitchell, Dexter. Dexter, the anti-hero we love to root for, finally meets his match in Arthur Mitchell, the Trinity Killer. On the show, many criminals got a taste of their own medicine, but no villain's death was more satisfying than that of Mitchell. For years, he had evaded Dexter's wrath, wreaking havoc in his wake. When Dexter finally takes him out, fans couldn't hold back the gasp. It was a release after years of pent-up frustration. But the victory came with a heartbreaking twist. While Dexter did vanquish the Trinity Killer, he didn't do so in time to save his wife, Rita. She paid the ultimate price as the Trinity Killer's final victim. 3. The Governor, The Walking Dead. What a piece of work. The Governor was one of The Walking Dead's most menacing, power-hungry psychopathic villains, a master of manipulation. He tortured and destroyed without mercy, as if the survivors of a zombie apocalypse needed him to dial up their suffering. So when his plan to strangle Rick is stopped by a mortal wound from Michonne's katana, the mood was relief. On top of it, Lily finally shoots him in cold blood, ending the nightmare. It wasn't just the Governor's demise that felt like justice, it was a moment of peace for those who had felt endless violence and pain because of him. 2. Ramsay Bolton, Game of Thrones. There's pure evil, and then there's Ramsay Bolton. His sociopathic acts, especially towards Sansa Stark and Theon Greyjoy, had fans begging for his demise, so when he meets his end in the most gratifying way possible, hunted down and eaten alive by his own hounds, it was a moment of poetic justice. No one felt sorry as his flesh was torn, no one missed him. This vile character was beyond any spark of redemption, and fans were ecstatic to see him gone. Number 1. Joffrey Baratheon, Game of Thrones. And finally, the death that everyone was waiting for. The character belongs to Game of Thrones. Joffrey Baratheon was a sadistic, power-hungry king whose cruelty made him one of the most despised characters in television history. He had the Honorable Ned Stark executed and forced his daughter to look at the man's head on a spike. Joffrey's atrocities knew no bounds, be it assault or blood sport. So, his slow, agonizing death at his wedding was nothing short of glorious. Fans paused and replayed that moment for all the right reasons. Watching Joffrey choke on his poisoned wine and turn purple, priceless. Finally, Westeros had a happy moment. These TV deaths weren't just shocking, they gave us the closure, justice, or just plain vengeance we were all craving. Which TV death had you cheering the loudest? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more epic countdowns and discussions by First Curiosity on the moments that made TV history.